Go. Hi, my name is Gina Cavalier, and we are here today on the Liberated Healer podcast. And very excited to have Kelly Ashley from Spiritual Awakening Science. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
And she's coming for us from UK, Scotland, correct?
Yes, Bonnie, Scotland.
Nice. So, very interested to talk to you about definitely what your journey has been to finding this soul path, which is always so interesting and different. And I know it resonates with other people, especially when they're not listening to all the bells of where they should be going and fall into rhythms that aren't their purpose, or they don't feel connected. And then a little bit about what you're kind of offering and what you kind of see is happening to the spiritual environment as a whole right now. So let's learn a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Well, probably the best place to start is telling you my own journey of spiritual awakening. So if I'm completely honest, when my awakening started, it didn't go so well. I didn't handle it so well. When the process started, I felt completely emotionally overwhelmed. There was just too much going on. I was painfully sensitive. I noticed that my empathy had gone to levels that were just agony. It was painful to pick up on everyone's stuff. I know you're nodding because you're like, yes, I know, been there. And I was extremely anxious. This anxiety just would not calm down and just couldn't work out what was going on there. So I struggled for really quite a long time just trying to manage daily life, as everyone does in awakening. Awakening hits and it's like, how am I supposed to function as a human? How can I do the human thing when this is going on? It's really difficult. And for a lot of that, to be honest, I really wondered what was wrong with me. I thought maybe I'm doing this spiritual awakening process all wrong. I'm supposed to be awakening to higher aspects of myself. This is supposed to be a journey going up the way.
It's supposed to feel good.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. You get really confused thinking, have I gone 2 steps back and did I lose it somehow? And and you beat yourself up. It's really, I like that you're starting with this because, it's almost like, when you go to the gym, and you haven't been in a really long time, your muscles hurt in the beginning.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, it was just, it didn't make any sense to me that everything was getting more difficult. Life was falling apart. It was like, it wasn't what I had envisioned for spiritual awakening. I'm thinking, barefoot guru, linen clothing, I'm thinking all that. It just wasn't. So I was feeling, to be honest, like a failure. And it just wasn't aligning with what I thought awakening was. I thought I was doing it wrong. And really, after a long time of struggling with some of those symptoms, and really having to carefully monitor all the different ascension symptoms that I was having, I started to realize what the problem was. Now, when I say it took a long time, we're talking years. Unfortunately, this really was a long journey of pitfalls, but I suddenly realized that I was ungrounded. But it was a different level of ungroundedness, because we've all been ungrounded at times, feeling a little scattered, maybe feeling a little dazed or a little bit removed. But when this happened, it was just a different level of ungrounded. So I did what anyone would do, and I got online and I started searching and looking for things that would ground my energies. And I did all the standard grounding things that we all use. I'm sure you use them too. Incense, essential oils, crystals, meditation. But a really odd thing happened when I did that. Everything started to get worse. So my emotions became even more intense, and they would change really erratically without any sort of cause. My sensitivity increased. My empathy started absorbing even more of everything all around about me. So I became a lot more introverted in that time. My psychic senses were tuned too high. So I really felt quite bombarded by psychic information. And of course, didn't understand it. So didn't know what was going on there. And just couldn't settle. I felt really anxious and fearful a lot of the time. And of course, totally helpless and powerless to do anything about it, really. So after a while of trying these techniques and realizing it was making it worse and thinking there's definitely something odd about me, everyone else can use these things to ground and it's not working for me, it's making it worse, I realized that actually it was making things worse. And it went against any spiritual training or healing training that I'd had up until that point, because it meant I had no way to stabilize my awakening. There was no way to anchor myself throughout this process, to catch my breath, to try and, get any sort of respite from it. And of course, no one that I knew could help me. I was asking my friends that I had that were spiritual teachers, they were guides, they were healers, and everyone was kind of like, I don't know, I really don't know about this one. I know over time I realised that it wasn't just me. People going through the spiritual awakening process are chronically ungrounded by the energies that flood the system. And it's that initial influx of real high vibrational white light that makes the symptoms so much worse for a while. Now, it has all got a purpose, and we'll talk about some of that at some point during the episode. So if this is happening to anyone who's listening right now, don't panic. It's normal, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's the key thing that I want people to take away from that. It doesn't have to be that way for sure.
Thank you. It doesn't have to be that way. I know I really was very into Eckhart Tolle through my journey. And I always listened to how he kind of all of a sudden was enlightened. And then I was like, why is this so hard for me? Why can't I be Eckhart Tolle?
Well, that's definitely how it feels. It can leave you really questioning what's wrong. But I know that for me, a change came so quickly when I got properly grounded. Those intense emotions calmed right down, the overwhelm calmed, the anxiety calmed, my psychic abilities improved. I was thinking more clearly.
Oops.
Where it should be, it changed hugely. So it definitely can change.
I'm actually going through this right now, so it's really timely, and I feel very super thankful and grateful. Yeah, and also for me, what I noticed because I have obviously in my life as a survivor of a lot of things became very good at certain things like sales and marketing. So people always trying to rope me into their projects, whether they'd not resonate with me.
Right.
And I try to keep my I really try very hard to keep my line in the sand and where I'm going in my path. But then reason steps in and says, well, you can make X amount of money. You're actually helping this, and even though everything against me, even in my physical, all those things that you're talking about, my psychic, my everything was saying, no, 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 no,
Right,
no.
right.
I took the job and instantly I was feeling all the symptoms you're saying in the job.
Right.
And, somebody would kind of get snarky with me, anxiety run up,
Right.
And I couldn't even, it did not feel normal at all. And I felt completely ungrounded and not myself. And it was a 5-week journey. And then I wound up having to quit. And then they even got more mad at me. So it was like, but that was the whole process. My whole body was telling me, don't go down that road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm really grateful because sometimes those signs are a little bit of a sign too, though.
Definitely.
That, what yeah. So
yeah, out of alignment. Anytime you're out of alignment, you could be ungrounded. It's likely that you'll be ungrounded. So it's great that you brought that up because it's a real life example of I'm kind of out of alignment here. Things aren't quite in alignment where I'm meant to be. And now I'm getting all these symptoms. Your soul is telling you this isn't right. And it's great that you've been able to recognize that, because the thing is, sometimes we see these signs and they are so obvious, they are so crazy, the signs that we get. And sometimes we just have to go down a path anyway. Sometimes we just have to follow something and work it out. And it doesn't quite work out, but we remember it. And then I do think that every time we have an experience like that, your intuition grows. You listen more to what those signs are. It's like learning the language of your own soul, I guess, in some level, isn't it?
I love that. Yeah. So then take us on to what happened next. How did you started to find relief and what came?
Well, it was a long process of trial and error. And what I found that, particularly for people going through awakening, anytime you get ungrounded, it can take quite a long time to ground back down. There's just too much light in the system before we're really ready for it. And eventually we are. Eventually we align with it and it's okay. But it takes time. So I really had to test lots of different things, a little bit like a spiritual scientist, just kind of testing how these things work out. So it actually, I came to the realization that I had to remove certain things from my space. So, like I say, it went against every teaching and training that I'd had, because I'd been using all these different things like incense for grounding, crystals for grounding, essential oils for grounding. I'd looked them all up. I knew what they were. I had them dotted all around the room. You know, I had the essential oils going, diffusing, I had the crystals, I was wearing them. And it just wasn't working. And the biggest thing that I did that made the difference was committing to getting that stuff out of my space. So I decided to take the crystal bracelets off, you know, remove the crystals out of the room that I was spending the most amount of time in, or, you know, my main living space, removing the incense, stopping meditating, which again goes against everything we've been taught, really taking a break from anything that would stimulate my energy in any way whatsoever, even though it was supposed to be a grounding thing that I was doing. And I found that when I did that, when I really took a break, when I removed everything from my space, after a few days, I felt considerably better. My symptoms started to reduce. After 2 weeks, all the symptoms had calmed right down to a level where all that was really left was the heightened psychic awareness, the alignment and the signs, and things like occasionally emotional stuff coming up that needed to be cleared, but it was manageable. I could breathe, you know, which, as you know, when you're going through this process, you just don't get a minute to breathe. It just feels like it's just one thing after the other. So it was really taking a break from those spiritual stimulants, anything that affected my energy in any way. It was like, whoa, this has really transformed things for me. How can the answer be so simple? And why does nobody talk about it? You know, there was no guidance online. There was no help.
No,
No help.
I've never heard of this. So this is super, but everybody has their own vibration and needs too. So you like found what your vibration was. And yeah, this is really interesting. I'm a little like you. I do have crystals, but I don't wear them on me. I can't really wear a lot of jewelry. And I bought a Herkimer diamond recently and I put it on and I had to take it off within that first couple hours. It felt like you said, I could feel it just vibrating, like almost like I had a Ferrari engine all of a sudden put in my body and I was just going and I was like, what happened? I don't want this craziness. So, I mean, although I really like it, I just, I'll probably wear it at just smaller moments because it actually is very powerful. But I know some people that just can wear all the different jewelries and crystals and stuff. And yes, I'm very, very sensitive.
You tend to find that, particularly when awakening's at its peak and there's all these energies flooding in, I think we just become so sensitive to anything that just adds just a little bit extra power because our systems just can't handle it. It's too much. And we're aware of that, which is a good thing that, you know, you put this on and straight away you're like, oh no, this is too much. That's really great that you're able to pick up the energies of that and to recognize that it's a bit much for your system right now. I've even found that for some people who are really chronically ungrounded in awakening, a Himalayan rock salt lamp can be too much to be in the room. It's the little things. So you need to kind of test it. But my guidance would be get rid of everything for 2 weeks. Put it in a box, put it over the other side of the house, give yourself a break, and then see how you feel. Within a few days, you'll feel better. Within 2 weeks, it will transform your awakening. It will just let everything settle. And then actually after that time, you may be able to reintroduce things. Like I'm wearing crystal bracelets today and it's okay. I've come past the point where they affect me too much, but it's not something I would use all the time. Just always being cautious about that stimulating the energy too much.
Well, I like how you actually answered the question though about why this is happening, and I want to repeat that because you said that there's too much white light in your space now as you're doing the awakening, and
Yeah.
that makes sense because the white light. I guess, do you have any more information on that, the light and how that
Sure.
vibrates? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think it does help. I think when you can understand how the process works, it takes a little bit of the anxiety out of it as well. So when we go through awakening, as you know, usually it's not some gentle, graceful process. It's usually like, bam, awakening, it's happening now. So when that happens, this really high vibrational white light floods the system. And it floods your system and really to awaken you. But it's got a function with lots of different things. There's lots of different things that white light is doing. So for a start, what it does is it raises your vibration really high. So your psychic senses become a lot more attuned. You start to notice signs. You might experience higher vibrational living. Things seem a lot more rosy than usual. And then what happens is that high vibrational light really opens up the central column of all your chakras. So it's almost like this central column's just all the chakras are open all at once. Now that's great because it allows all the blockages and all the dense energy that we're holding in the soul to rise up to the surface. And then with the sensitive empathy that we've got and the emotional sensitivity, then we start to understand and recognize and acknowledge the stuff that needs to come up. So if that empathy wasn't as heightened as it was and the sensitivity wasn't as heightened as it was, we might not notice and acknowledge the things that are coming up. And then that allows us this process of healing. So this stuff's coming up all the time. And the more high vibrational we get, the faster it comes up. So that's why when you're using crystals, essential oils, incense, when you're meditating and you're stimulating those energies, those emotional issues are going to come up a lot faster because you're opening up the space, you're speeding up the process. And that's when it gets to the point where we feel like we can't handle it because it's just too much emotion, too much old baggage. It could be stuff from your childhood, stuff from past lives. It's just going to find a way to bubble to the surface, even if you don't know that that's what it is. Because you might go through awakening, you just find that you feel really depressed or you feel really anxious. Suddenly you feel really jumpy and fearful. It's like probably past life stuff that's coming up from that open channel, all bubbles to the surface, so that we can purge ourselves and be completely clear, get our soul to that really clear place. But it's challenging.
Yeah. Once this process starts to happen, what I found is that the stuff that's coming out is the core, the very
Ooh, yeah.
core issues. It's not the light fluffy stuff that you've already dealt with. Like maybe I have a jealousy issue, or like it's usually the core things. As in, as a child, I learned how to survive by doing this, and now it's ruining my relationships as an adult. And
totally, yeah.
So that's another reason why I think it's so painful, because those are in there deep, and they're not only in there deep, but they're also in there with programming. So your mind,
totally agree.
on top of the trauma, is completely trying to negotiate, and your mind is so powerful, and it wants to win.
Yes,
we want to win, and it's like, I want to still win.
that's right.
Doesn't want to let that go for some reason. So having to blend those two. But another thing that I really like that you said is that, and I'm just getting chills all over, excuse me, is how you said that how the chakras fully open, right? And then they kind of help let all those blockages come out. But behind the chakras is that soul. And I love that, because I actually haven't heard anybody say that, but that's how I kind of try to explain it to people so a lot of people that are suffering, especially teenagers that I've worked with, that are bombarded by suicidal thoughts because they don't feel
Right.
Social media and all this stuff, they're very conflicted of who they are and their identity and things like that. what I usually do is I open up all their chakras, and then I send them a visual, if they're a visual learner, what their soul looks like.
Oh, wow.
And they go, "Oh, I'm that beautiful, cool thing." And I said, "Yes, that's you." And usually teenagers, they get it right away. "Oh, I don't need therapy," and off they go. And
That's awesome.
their parents are like, "What did you do?" I was like, "I just showed them what their soul looked like."
Oh,
But you're really the first person that explained that, that the soul kind of is almost kind of encased in these traumas and fears and energy, right? And it's behind all those things. Oh my gosh, I never heard that explained like that. Thank you.
I'm really glad.
Yeah.
It's for me. It feels more like I think people quite often think that awakening is this instantaneous thing, and you're just enlightened. And for me, it's not something that moves in. It's a continual letting go. Keep letting go of all that density. Keep letting go of all the negativity. Exactly as you said, the programming, all that stuff, and it's what's left. I feel is the thing that really is enlightened. It's who we are without all that stuff is already that ascended being. It's already there. We just can't quite access it until we get clearer. So yeah, definitely.
So tell us a little bit more about, now that you found all that, it started to work well for you, and now you found that process, and what happened after that, and
Well,
or
things move
or
pretty fast.
things like the 5D and all that stuff. I'd love to get into some of that.
Yeah, things moved really fast after that. So after I started to realize how this worked and really getting an understanding of what the process is and how it affects people, I just felt so strongly that I had come through years of trawling the internet, looking for answers, trying things that didn't work. And there really wasn't any tangible guidance out there. There was a lot of stuff that was comforting. There was a lot of channeling. There was a lot of words of wisdom that would comfort me, but nobody could say, if you do this, things will get better. If you take this step, it will work. And I wanted to be able to provide that for people because awakening can be, if we're honest, quite terrifying. It can be quite a frightening, overwhelming process. And to not have resources there that I could go to and or even hear that someone else had been through the journey, for someone to say, oh, don't do that, try this instead, that would have made things so much easier. So I decided right after that that I was going to start the website and really put out as much content as I possibly could to educate people on how to manage their awakening process so that you get all the good parts. You don't need to have all the heavy stuff. There is going to be some of it because you're still going through a purging process, but it doesn't need to be as difficult as it's been. So after that, we created the website. We had videos going out. We had blog posts going out. We've got energy healing meditations with activations in them. And I've been working for a number of years with a collection of spirit guides, really high vibrational spirit guides, who are dedicated to helping us on the awakening pathway. And we've been able to do the meditations where they will work on your behalf and they'll make the adjustments and really change the energetic things that you need, clear things out that you need, so that you can move into the awakening process more easily. And it's specifically tailored to your energy. So that was what I wanted to be different. I didn't want it to be like, it's just a blanket meditation for everyone. I wanted it to be like, what are your specific issues? What is it that you need? If we turn everyone's empathy really high or everyone's psychic ability really high, it might not work for everyone. It needs to be kind of adjusted in levels for everyone. So we leaned into that and we have meditations on pretty much every single topic and aspect of awakening that you could think of to clear you out, get that healing working and activate some of the dormant skills and abilities that might still be there that you're wanting access to. And it's really just gone from there. We've been helping lots of people in the awakening pathway, and what I'm realizing is there are so many of us out there, and it's getting faster, it's changing all the time. So we're I see us moving into a slightly different time now over the last few years. So awakening, 20 years ago, if someone went through awakening, it could have taken 20 years. It used to take a long time. You'd hear these long journeys, wouldn't you? And you think, oh gosh, I hope that never happens. That sounds awful. But these really long, drawn out, huge chunk of your life experiences. Now what we're seeing happening is that things are speeding up. So we're seeing more spontaneous awakenings happening really quickly, happening really instantly, and then happening in a shorter space of time too. And that's because the vibration in the planet is raising. So we are moving into that 5D vibration. We can't quite stay there all the time. So we dip in and out. But it means that awakenings happen so much more quickly now than ever before. And that's where we're actually seeing the problem, is that people are getting pushed through it more quickly. So like I said, chakras are more open, stuff comes up faster. People are feeling like they're having breakdowns because this emotional content, all this painful baggage from the past is coming up too quickly. So if we can manage that, then we'll find that we can actually get to the good parts of awakening, and we can live in higher vibrational living for a large part of our lives, and certainly the rest of our lives, without having to deal with all the heavy symptoms. So it's ultimately a good thing.
They need to have also a class or a cup or some merchandise about, the people that love you around you while you're going through this, because there's always like these, like, I was just getting this vision of all these like menopause jokes and things like that, but it's real, and people that love you are like, why are you so sensitive about that one? You're like, I just tell you it's not right. Like,
yeah,
I can't explain it any further. And then it's like, wow, you're just a little kind of crazy right now. So, luckily the people that love you and know that this is your journey and stuff, but it can be hard for the people around you too.
Definitely. Yeah. People don't always understand what's going on. And I think for most people in awakening, who can you tell? Who can you tell these crazy symptoms? Sometimes they really are something that is a bit crazy. It seems a bit odd. It seems unbelievable to other people, but it's happening. Yeah. So it can be quite isolating. And I think that a lot of people move through the awakening process thinking that they need to cut everyone off, let everyone go, because they're not on an awakening journey. But what I'm finding more recently with people is that we're raising the vibration within ourselves, and then we're taking a lot of these relationships with us. We're becoming an influence that helps to raise the vibration of the people around us, and then they can kind of come along beside us. And I find that really interesting to see that some people are working through healing. I've seen it in the coaching sessions. People work through an issue, and then they say, this dynamic with my friends just suddenly changed. It was really odd the way she responded. She was nice, or she would usually do this and she didn't do that. And it's like, wow, we're actually having an effect, and we can take these souls along beside us, which is just awesome. It's a lot less isolating than it used to be.
Is there any like process where you're like, I'm 50% awakened, I'm 60? I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes you want to know, am I getting close to the end? Or have you been able to determine?
Yeah.
That's like the big giant question in the sky, right? It's like,
of course,
you're awakened. But sometimes I wonder, am I going through that? Or am I at the beginning of it? Or I'm at the end of it? Is there any type of thing that you've been able to find of where you are within that process?
To a degree. Unfortunately, It's one of those things everyone asks, and there's not really any definitive answer. What I can say is it's more of a thing that works in stages. I think at the moment, certainly the way the energies of the planet are, that if you're going through awakening, it's something that will be a part of your life for your entire life. However, that doesn't mean that this challenging part where you're working through all the old stuff is going to last forever. It's not. What I'm finding is that people tend to, if they really embrace the healing side of things and start working on themselves, they'll move through this stuff. The symptoms will ease off, things start to get easier. And then it's more of a process of gradually moving into 5D, or what I call higher vibrational living. Things start getting a little bit better. Everything seems a little bit rosier. Relationships start improving. Things start moving in a more positive direction. That's when you know that you're coming into a phase that is more higher vibrational and you're getting further on in the journey.
Well, that's very helpful. I mean, yes, okay, that makes sense. So you're starting to learn the lessons faster, and then everything around you just starts to feel a little bit more aligned.
It smooths out.
Okay.
So the main thing that you need to remember is when you're in the more beginning stages of awakening, you'll be stuck in more of the 3D energies. So you'll be looking out for things like obstacles, challenges, struggles, and survival issues. If they're showing up in your life, you're still working on 3D issues, and that's okay. But you want to get some help or some assistance or some focus in really working through that stuff, because that's the stuff that holds you back from that 5D vibration. That's the stuff that really gets in the way. The more you can clear that out, not only are you going to move into higher vibration, but life's definitely going to feel a lot easier because you're not constantly dealing with challenges and obstacles and having to fight and battle your way through life. That can make a big difference. So you'll probably always find that as you move into the next higher level, some more challenges bubble up to the surface, because every new level has some density that we need to let go of. But generally, things will start to get smoother and smoother as you move throughout the journey.
Well, that feels really good. You were saying things like crystals and things like that could also affect it. But what about like alignments with astrology? Like, say it's like the 8-8, Lionsgate opening and things like that. Just wanted to bring it out there for an awareness. Like, is that really affecting this part of the journey as well? And so have that awareness. So if you're feeling really super heightened, it helps to, like you were saying, understand what's happening. Do you agree with that as well?
Definitely. And that's a great question. Definitely. You actually reminded me of something I wanted to bring up, so thanks for that. But yeah, definitely. So what you'll notice, especially if it's spiritual awakening, what you'll notice is when there's any sort of astrological event whatsoever, even if it's a full moon, a new moon, an eclipse, any sort of, like you said, Lionsgate portal, significant dates, anything like that will stimulate your energy. So you might find that round about that time, and you want to start looking for the signs that you are a bit more spacey, maybe you can't sleep, maybe you feel a bit overly charged, maybe you're anxious. That was what used to happen to me. That was how I noticed every time there was a full moon or a new moon, I'd be anxious for about 3 or 4 days. It was like, why does this keep happening? And I suddenly realized it's like, it's in alignment with this stuff. Because anytime there's an astrological event or a significant date, what's really happening there is you're getting another influx of high vibrational energy, and you're picking up on that, and you're already a little bit too charged with these awakening energies. So that plus the additional influx of light that's coming in is probably going to make your awakening symptoms much worse. Which actually I've got a list of these that I can go through if that's helpful too. I'm wondering if people might wonder.
Yeah.
So some of the symptoms that you're looking out for if you're going through awakening would be that you become highly sensitive and really emotional. So you will maybe cry at the drop of a hat, and your emotions will change quite erratically. So that's the key thing you want to look for. They might happen for seemingly no reason. Okay, so it's like, I don't know why I feel like I need to just cry and cry right now. There's really nothing going on. There's no reason for it, but I just feel that way. So that's something to look out for. The other thing is feeling anxious, panicked, or even fearful. So because, like I've said, this awakening is a purging process, all the fear that's trapped in the cells in your energy body is going to be felt as it's releasing from the system. So it's going to start to bubble up to the surface. You're going to feel emotions from past lives that haven't been processed yet. And you don't have to remember the past life for that stuff to be bubbling up. You might just feel really jumpy and really fearful and not really have any reason for it. And you're going to have extremely high empathy. So you'll feel other people's pains and upsets really strongly, and you might struggle to watch the news. You might want to be alone a lot more, very common. Feeling completely overwhelmed. You might be so energy sensitive that you're picking up everybody else's stuff. So bad vibes in a room, conflict, other people's moods. Again, it becomes quite difficult to be around people, as you know. And then also things like feeling crazy, questioning your sanity. It is such a bizarre experience that you're going to see signs that make you really wonder what's happening. You're going to see signs from the universe and be like, did anyone else actually just see that? This doesn't make any sense. What has happened? Your psychic senses will not only increase, but they could become quite out of control. That usually frightens people when that happens, but it is part of the process initially, and it will calm down with grounding. So that psychic doorway is just wide open. It's so much more attuned than it's ever been in your entire life, and we don't know how to uphold the boundaries yet. So you'll get quite an influx of information that it's like, whoa, I don't know how to make sense of this. I don't even know if it does make sense. It's just, you're just getting flooded with it. You can also get physical symptoms. So if you're really chronically ungrounded, and I want people to really look out for this, if they're on the awakening pathway, aches, pains, fatigue, brain fog, recurrent illness or ailments, things like that that show up tell me that you are chronically ungrounded. So it's your soul is looking to be healed through the body, and it'll be past life stuff. And then the last one is, of course, that you'll be unable to ground your energy. So because those awakening energies are so heightened, anything that you use that stimulates your energy is going to have an adverse effect. And any sort of traditional grounding methods either won't work, won't last, or will actually make your symptoms worse. So watch out for reactions to things like crystals, essential oils, incense, meditations, and even energy healing. You need to be careful with all those things because it can definitely make it worse.
Yes, and that is the first time I've ever heard that, and I can now see how this is really helpful. Because yeah, you do feel like you're going crazy, and you go like I think this is a really neat process that you've, and that this is your path, was to enlighten people on these things, because obviously not everybody is coming out and saying that. So and it's not a negative whatsoever. It's just helping you. Like you said, you're flooded with this white light, and it's almost like a balance, like over putting too much gas in a car.
Totally. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it's a great way to put it.
It's not that these things are not good or helpful or wonderful. They're actually a process to get you here, I think.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? But when that's happening, because I'm actually kind of going through it right now. That's really interesting that we aligned right now.
But, it is, isn't it?
All my traditional stuff was really, I kind of felt a little cuckoo. And actually to a point where I was kind of going crazy one day, and I just got in my car and drove to the river and put my feet in the river.
Right.
And because I needed a level of grounding that I could not do with meditation.
Yeah.
Within a half, and I just watched the sunset, and I literally got aligned, and I felt like myself. It literally was a half an hour, but I was spinning for hours and hours and crying, just with like my whole soul. It felt like, just all this stuff coming out. And I didn't know what else to do. Like you were saying, it just was just so painful, and I couldn't figure anything out. I didn't want to be around anybody because I didn't want anybody to see me like that, because what comes in is all this shame. Why I thought you had your shit together. You know what I mean? So you're like, I don't want people to see me like this. Like, what happened? Did I lose all my spirituality? Is it something that you could just lose?
Yeah.
Lose all my information. So I was panicking, and so I really understand this and appreciate it. And I definitely am interested in taking some of your either courses or for reading, or recommend that for other people going through this awakening process.
Sure.
And I just really am feeling very lucky to have met you today and talk to you about some of this stuff. Is there anything that you want to kind of wrap up with that you think would be really helpful for people, either a meditation or some kind of information that would be the next thing after what we spoke about?
Sure. Well, the next thing I would say for anyone who has listened to this and thinks, yep, I'm pretty sure I'm going through awakening, everything's crazy. We actually have a free 5-day course that they can take, and it will really, it'll help you to transform your awakening. So it'll reduce your symptoms, it'll ground your energies, and it'll make the whole process much easier. So you can get it at spiritualawakeningsigns.com. That's our website. There's also a link in there to our private Facebook group that's for Spiritual Awakening, which can be good if people are feeling like they don't really have any connections or know anyone else who's going through the awakening process. That can help too. But that course will take you step by step. It will explain the entire awakening process, everything that your system's going through, and it will guide you through what to do each day, so that within 5 days you'll be feeling much better, and within 2 weeks you will feel absolutely, your awakening will be transformed. And as I said, they can get it at the site spiritualawakeningsigns.com. And then from there, there's lots of other things. There's tons of help on our website, lots of blog posts, and of course on our YouTube channel as well. You can even try some of the meditations for free. We've got lots of them on different topics of spiritual awakening that could just help to settle your energies. They're absolutely safe to use if you find that you're reacting to energy healing and things throughout the awakening process.
Well, we'll definitely link everything below so everybody can find that for you. And I'm really curious about the in Scotland, the area about. Is this something popular in Scotland? Or is it?
I think it's probably similar to as it is anywhere. I think we're going through this in general. It's just harder to find people locally, I think, who are going through it, because I think it depends where you are and how open people are about talking about it. And I don't think in Scotland people are, unless you're in that field and you're working with other healers, I don't think people are particularly open to talk about it. But certainly online, I'm finding there's people from everywhere. It's definitely happening all over the world, which is wonderful to see. And then strangely, there is a butterfly who's just started flapping at the window. So we've got transformations. Transformations are happening.
I love the signs. Yeah, and what I've found is that you just, what we do is you just keep putting it out there, gentle and not pushing it, and you just become this vessel of information. I love how you just said, hey, I have something unique. I want to help people, and I'm just going to put it out there. And I do the same kind of thing. And, the right people that need it will find it.
Yeah.
And it's such a blessing. And, we're ever grateful to people, because it isn't easy also to put yourself out there in a spiritual way. So, and it is a lot of hard work, and it usually is something that's underpaid and all that stuff. So I always want to say a shout out of, a graceful thank you for your dedication to, elevating the souls around you. What I've found also is that you just kind of be this consistent source as much as possible. And all this positive content helps combat all the negative content that we see, and the more we can put that out, even if 1 or 2 people see it, that 1 or 2 people need that. But what I've also found is that sometimes the person that's the least person that you would think that would call you. I got a call last night from someone who was, the last person I would think would ask me for spiritual help called me. And that's always that. And I always appreciate that, because, obviously they know you're authentic and they trust you, which is 2 important things in this world. It's with spirituality, especially.
Definitely.
And then, maybe they would never have even thought of even going down this road a tiny bit unless you had your content. So I always appreciate the time and energy that we all put into just being there for our fellow humans. And so humans can, I don't know. I think we can do better, be better through some of these processes, and help the planet and the world. And I know the 5D is happening, and from what I can tell with the 5D is that it's pulling us forward so much that it's forcing you to either live in the 5D or in the 3D, right? So the people that are full of just 100% resistance, they're actually, I feel like, getting sicker and having more struggles, and so just again, I want to reiterate to people that, we're here to answer your questions and help alleviate that stuff for everybody. So thank you, Kelly Ashley, Spiritual Awakening Signs.
Oh, I'd like to thank you too. Thank you so much.
To try some of your meditations, and it's very fitting for me right now. And so thank you.
Thank you to you too. Keep doing what you're doing. You're sharing really good information with everyone, and helping to lift the vibration. So I really appreciate it too.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Kelly. And this is
Thank you
the
too.
Liberated Healer Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Liberated Healer Podcast and the website, theliberatedhealer.com. I'm the Liberated Healer. Bye.